and welcome to the Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, and this is episode 109. I am Amy Beth, also known as Fat Squirrel and the on Ravelry, and the Fat Squirrel, SQRL, on Instagram. I'm your hostess! I got the mostest! That's right, I do. Okay, so this week's episode might be brief. For no apparent reason. Except that I'm feeling very harried. Like that. I apologize, I am drinking. Not liquor, coffee. It just put the kid on the bus and now I'm trying to... FYI. My husband has an outside job. And so he does lots of things, but one of the things he does is he tests hydraulic trucks. But one of the things he tests are like, you know, the bucket trucks, like when they're working on telephone lines and stuff, and there's like a big metal boom and a bucket on it, and there's a person in there working on stuff. He tests those, and one of the ways he tests them is by shooting electricity through them to like find out if there's any flaws or cracks or anything like that. So because he's shooting electricity through metal, if it's raining, sometimes he can't work. Actually, I think I just made that up. I think the reason he can't do it is because he also does this other thing. See, I don't even know my husband. I listen all the time. I'm very attentive. One of the other things he does is he puts these like diode things on the metal, and then like it's an acoustic emissions test. And there's something about like, I guess it listens for like stresses or I don't know the science behind that, quite frankly. But when it rains, even the sound of the pinging on the booms can mess that up. So actually, I do believe it's both of those things. I don't think I made either one of those up. He doesn't do them both at the same time all the times. But both of those are sometimes the reasons he can't work in the rain. So I have to do a shorter show because it's starting to rain and I feel like any minute he's gonna bust in. That's also why sometimes I'm a little bit off, and especially in the spring. I'm always a little bit off. I heard you. You can just sit with your snarky attitude for a minute. I'm always a little bit off. But I'm off recording schedule sometimes more so in the spring because the weather is less predictable. For example, yesterday it was like 83 here, and today the high is supposed to be like 60. You know that, it's weather. I know, right? Pleasantries at the grocery store. I have a rant about that, but... Do I fear being... just... Let's rant, shall we? I have no shenanigans, right? We had people over, it was lovely, but I don't know that it's shenanigan-y. You know what I mean? I'm trying to feel like if anything was shenanigan-y. Oh my gosh, I totally saw this band this week. It was awesome. I have no information to give you about it, but it was fun. We went to this like festival thing that I'm gonna tilt you, that a friend of ours puts on, so we go to like support her and say, "Yay, you're great." But they had this really great band this time, which was totally surprising. I shouldn't say it was totally surprising. They always have musical things happening, but it's often very like folky and like nice. Which I actually do enjoy folk music. I'm kind of a nerd that way. But this time they had this band, I believe it was called Pictish. Maybe it was Pictus. Maybe I'll try to remember to put that in show notes. Oh, let's not even pretend that I'm going to. Feel free to ask on the board. I believe it was called Pictish. As in the Picts, as in the pre-Gaelics, as in the wee people who were all blue painted and woady and whatnots. So anyway, this three people, there's two fellas and a lady. They all have their matching kilts on. They're all very attractive too. I don't know how that happened. But dude, I think I found the musical entertainment, because there should be musical entertainment, right? For our potential Indiana podcaster retreat. People, this is like in the ether. It's not a real thing. Don't get excited. It's all pretends. In the pretend world. where we get to go tubing and knitting and have lots of science experiments, learn how to dye stuff with lichen and stuff. In that retreat of our dreams. I think we should totally have this band come at night and we have a big fire and we can all dance around crazy style because it'll be dark and nobody can see and there's no iPhones allowed or any pictures. Well, there can be pictures, but they have to be authorized or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But anyway, super fun. 2 of them are the drummer, percussion-y people. There was a little heavy on the cymbal. I don't know what that was about. I could do without a cymbal forever. I'm just saying that. I'm sorry if you love the cymbal. I could forever not hear a cymbal and be completely content in my life. Are you with me? So, but the real clincher, not that the other 2 people were fabulous, but the real clincher was there was a very attractive man. I thought he was very attractive. You may differ, but he was tall and skinny, and that's my thing. There was a very attractive bagpiper. He may have been tattooed heavily. For a minute, I totally thought he had face tattoo, and I was like, this is literally the first person I've ever found attractive that had a face tattoo. But it was just makeup. Because they like had the like kind of, you know, they had the whole thing going. They had a persona. Anyway, I feel like he had a mohawk, but now I can't even remember. And he was playing like the dancing pipes. I don't know anything about pipes at all, but I feel like there are like marching pipes and dancing pipes. I feel like that. I may be making this up. Paula has probably said this is why I'm making it up, because it's actually something she said, and I tucked it back here. But he was playing like not very loud pipes. In fact, that was part of the issue, is that there was 2 drum-ishy people, and one him, and he was not. They were not mic'd or anything, because obviously there, you know, it wasn't a huge venue or anything. But the volume was not right. He needed to have more volume. Because again, he didn't have the really like big droney pipes. He just had the smaller, I feel like they're dancing pipes. I'm making that up. It was awesome. He had like a coyote or something on the like, he was so good. And so attractive. Oh. Anyway, so that was the totally unrelatable shenanigans. I did take video. Maybe I'll try to find if any of the video was acceptable and put it at the end. There will probably be people walking in front of me. Let's not lie. Anyway, they were super fun. It was like a nice surprise because I was not anticipating that at all. Were they like the most awesome band in the universe? No. But they were the most awesome band that could have happened at that time, and therefore I appreciated them quite a lot. They were very fun. It needed to be dark so I could dance around, because I'm pretty sassy. Hi. I'm not quite that sassy. I know, I wish I was. I wish I was the sassiest person ever and could just get out and shake my stuff. But do you see how wide I am? Like, that's all the way through to my rhythm core. I feel like that's actually one of the only the only bad things. That's a lie. One of the bad things about being I have always been this, well, I shouldn't say I've always been this size, but like since junior high school, I have been this essentially. I mean, I've been slightly smaller than this, but I always thought I was this. So in my head, I was always this. So you know how that goes. But I feel like part of like one of the drawbacks of that, there are actually some positives. I know you're going to be like, you're a liar. There actually are some positives. But one of the drawbacks is that I was always really, really self-conscious when I was younger. Now I'm kind of like, whatever. But I was very self-conscious when I was younger. And so I never went through the phase where I like learned to dance awkwardly in front of girlfriends or a mirror or something. Because I was just too like, I was very literal and robot-y. My kid is totally literal and robot-y sometimes. Sorry, kid. But I just never went through that weird, like, how do I move my body in a rhythmic fashion to acoustic things? It never happened to me. So now what I need to do is do like one of those 100 days things and just be like, I'm going to dance in front of a mirror for 100 days and figure out how to do it. Do you see me? I'm so literal. And figure out how to do it. Not like experience it. No, I would need a chart. I'm going to put feet on the ground. Yeah, right. I'm such a nerd. This is way too much rambling. So anyway, those were the shenanigans. But then there was another point to this about why I was going to rant about something. Now I have no idea what I was going to rant about. You're welcome. Oh, I was going to rant about male cashiers. I'm still going to rant about it because it drives me crazy and nobody sympathizes. So at least one of you out there might be like, I just need a one, okay? I just need one. What is up with the male cashiers? Have you ever had a good male cashier? I have never had a good male cashier. I'm talking about at the grocery store. I've never had one, ever. And suddenly there is a plague upon me of male cashiers. A plague! Except at Aldi's. And then even at Aldi's there's one. I just didn't go to him. But the other day I was at the other grocery store and there were no female options except in the express lane. Talk about no sense of urgency. None. Scan. Drop. Scan. Drop. Oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. I'm a patient person when it comes to things that require patience, like knitting, making my own stinking yarn. I'm patient up in y'all. But when it comes to something that can be done more efficiently, no patience. None. Also, if you're the cashier and you're chatting me up in a friendly way, I don't mean that like in a flirty way, because sometimes chatting up means flirty. I don't mean flirty. But like if you can walk the small talk walk, I'm also okay if you're not super fast. I mean, I might be a little bit like, maybe you should shush and just scan my groceries. But I won't be like, argh! If you cannot walk the small talk walk and you are not efficient, I have no time for you. I'm over it. I'm only going to Aldi's forever. That's right. All these chicks are on it. They are super fast. I love them. They are models of efficiency. Plus they can sling all my groceries and never hurt anything. This fellow was like, oh, this bag of apples, that's clearly like a potato. I can just sling it over here and drop it on there. And maybe I can elbow it and do like like I can practice my WWE moves. They are apples. They bruise. It's not even something weird where you're not sure if it bruises. I assume starfruit bruises, but I technically don't know. I am not sure. I assume. My rant. Oh my gosh. I have no plans to talk this much, and yet I did. Surprise. We're talking about knitting and spinning now? Oh my god. So this episode will contain knitting and spinning, questions if we have time, and shameless self-promotion. Oh, that's right. 3 weeks of shameless self-promotion in a row, folks. It's out of control up in y'all. There will be a break. What has happened actually is I'm really trying to move through some of the things I have purchased in smaller quantities. So that's why there have been a lot of updates this month, because they have been smaller updates. And then, so there will be an update this Friday, which is Friday the 15th or is Saturday the 15th? It's totally my husband's birthday. I feel like Saturday's the 15th, right? No. I don't know anymore. Let's not even pretend. There'll be an update Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. But then there won't be another one until the first Friday of June. Okay, so, but let's talk about knitting and spinning. And drink coffee. Okay, spinning. Last week I told you I was working on my spun. Now I feel like I've totally made that up. It is spun right round, right? It is, right? The cat. She's super cute. I think it's been right around. All right, we're just gonna go with it. I think it's been right around. It'll be in the show notes. I promise it will be. In the circus colorway, see, I remember the circus, but suddenly I had a moment of doubt. So this is Rambouillet, which I totally enjoy. It is soft like a merino, but Little Froggy Monkey on Knitting in Circles said that it is spongier, and it is spongier. It is not as slick as merino, which is one of the reasons I like it. I find it easier to spin. That said, this is not in any way my best spinning effort. It was definitely a zoom zoom. Well, it was less zoom zoom than I thought, but I just wanted it to be like fast and fluffy. Like I like all my ladies, fast and fluffy. So I just wanted it to be like a zoom zoomy, like hat, mitteny kind of thing. So it is. That is what it is. This is my favorite part right here. I am really into yellow. I don't know, maybe I'm always into yellow, but I'm especially into yellow lately. Look, it's like, oh, it looks like the most beautiful egg of goodness. Oh, I love it so much. Right there. So I was very happy about all the eggy bits. It's reading more purple. Well, at least on this tiny screen. Who knows when I put it up there? I don't know what's happening. It's reading slightly more purple here than it is, which is actually... what's reading as purple is really the blue and the pink together. Science. Anyway, I totally dig it. I got like 250-ish yards. So it's a worsted. I mean, maybe in places of DK. It smells lovely. It's joyful. Yay! That. How did I spin it? I spun it, I split it in half, like I broke it in half. And then I spun one of them just like it was, and I split the other one in half to maximize barber pulling, which did. Okay, so there's that. The other thing I spun this week is I had purchased this at last year's SSK. It is from Spotted Circus. It is an alpaca BFL trilobal faux cashmere, actually fake cashmere, blend in the Vineyard colorway from Spotted Circus. Now, I know why I bought this, because I love these colors and they're very weird and I'm just digging them. But it's alpaca and I really don't enjoy alpaca. I don't mind commercially spun alpaca as much, but for some reason whenever I spin it, I do not care for it. It's not the actual act of spinning it, that's fine. But the finished object is always far too hairy, and I don't enjoy that about it. I'm not saying it's anything to do with the fiber. Again, commercially spun I don't seem to have a problem with. Also, there's other reasons why it might be hairier than normal. Okay. But so this, I bought 8 ounces of it. Why? Because this is color, and it's sparkly. Sucker! So I made this. I didn't know if I wanted to ply it or leave it as a single. I was afraid though that plying it might make it even weirder colored, and I think it would have. I think it would have been too weird. So this is just a single, which might also explain why it is hairier than I would like it to be, because there's no ply, there's no wrap to catch any of that halo. That said, it is super drapey, which is totally fun. I mean, it is like, it's like noodly. That's how drapey it is. So it would be a super fun cowl or something, but I don't want to wear it because it's too hairy. But it was still fun to spin. And I need lots of practice trying to spin singles because, I'll tell you in a minute why. Okay. It's actually surprisingly, this is a good single for me. I don't do many singles, but this one is good. It is surprisingly even. High five me. Good job. It is surprisingly nice. I did not full it, like, I didn't hard full it. I did like 2 dunks, hot to cold, and then I was done. Because I didn't want it to dull out too much, because sometimes fulling your singles will always dull the fiber a little bit, because That's what it does. Instead of the fibers being like long and reflecting the light, they're all like that and they don't reflect as well. So it's still, yeah, I totally dig it. Except I don't want it on me. So what to do? I also don't know that I'm ever going to spend that other 4 ounces. So maybe it'll be a prize. I feel kind of cheatery doing that sometimes. Like, I don't like this, would you? But then there are lots of times that there are other things that people don't like, and I'm like, yes, I would love that. So maybe I'll still offer it as a surprise, even though it makes me feel a little bit weird. See, it's like, even in the, it's like, see this? You can hold like this and it stays relatively erect. This, not even, hush! I was not going for that. Okay, now we need to move on because it's going to get worse. Okay, so there's that. That's my spinning. Now, those are my spinning finished objects. Now I have a spinning work in progress, which has something to do with wool piggery. Surprise! Wool pig. I'm such a wool pig lately. Let's chill out. Crazy style. I cannot even get that into a hank that does not look ridiculous. Okay. And now I have a pocket in my face. So this week, Loop had an update. I need to get off her email list. I only have one other Loop bump that is not spun. And I have only, I think before today, I think I have only purchased 3. So that's not terrible. It's actually quite good. I'm doing fine. But then, Loop has, and if you don't know who Loop is, of course, she's Loop. She does bullseye bumps, and she does the spontaneous spinning clouds. These are still called bullseye bumps, but they are different than the more traditional ones. The traditional ones have very long color repeats, and these have shorter ones. But they're still in the same format. Is that the right word? They're still in the same I can't think of the word. Not production. Okay, I gotta shut up. Right? So this was on one of the ones. Usually I can just be okay because I'm kind of over the long ones, you know? Kind of over it. Not really. But I can pretend I'm over it. Breaking up with you. So I can pretend I'm over those, but these are the new ones and I had to try them. It was research and stuff. It's for the podcast. It's my story. Stick into it. So this one is called Cumin, and it is Merino, Coopworth, Nylon, and Angelina. No, it's not Coopworth. That's just the Z. Sorry. It is Merino, Nylon, and Angelina. It's 5 ounces. I'm spinning mine from the outside. And I debated on whether to do a chain ply or to just do a single, and I decided to do a single because the repeats are short enough that I fear, well, there's 2 reasons. For one thing, doing a chain ply, I was afraid to do a chain ply. I really wanted it to be fingering weight. And to do a chain ply, I would have to make it very skinny plies. And then I would be afraid to chain ply that skinny because I'm not an avid chain plier. So I decided to do a single. I could have done just a 2-ply, but I feel like that just is not fancy enough for the fancy. Like, this is so fancy. And it smells really good. I'm going from the outside. You can go from the inside or the outside. I'm just going from the outside. To each her own, his own, their own, hoochie doodly own. But then I might have also bought another one. Don't judge me! While I was waiting for that one to show up, this one did too. This one is called Marrakesh. And it is 6.1 ounces of straight up merino. That's the other reason I can kind of resist her temptations, because I'm not hugely into merino, but then this stuff happens and I'm just bar. And I really, for like a long moment, decided or contemplated applying these together. But I have like 6.1 ounces of one and 5 ounces of the other. And yes, I could have just done a 2-ply for the other ounce, but I I couldn't do it. They would have been beautiful together. I know they would have been beautiful together. But I needed this one to be all yellow though. I really needed it. I needed it. I needed it to be all yellows and neutrals because that is what I'm in love with at the moment. Right. Ah. How can you not lie? I am so bad at resisting temptation. Surprise! I wear that on my sleeve. Okay. So there's that. Little pig. I admit it. Okay, knitting. Finished object. I finished my Afterthought heel socks from Coloring Book Yarns in her Lumpy Space Princess colorway. Bam, they're glittery. Can you tell? They're totally glittery. So I did 2 shorty socks. Each of these socks was 28 grams. So I could definitely get a third one out of the ball. But I could not get a fourth one because even if I had like kind of fudged it, made them fusion, like they didn't actually take 20 grams because you know they're Afterthought, you gotta match them up. They're stripy, I want them to match, so you lose a little bit here and there. So really they probably both took at least 30 grams of yarn. So I don't know, I'm trying to decide. Do I just make like a third? Just have like one sock like then have mismatched socks because I'm fancy and I can take it. I don't know. But I totally dig them, right? They're super cute. Yay that! Okay, knitting works in progress. Speaking of socks, I finished that. And now I'm working on some more shorty socks because I just can't stop it. I don't want to stop it. Sorry, that was Coloring Book Yarns. Lovely Space Princess. Now, oh, I forgot to put in. If you Instagram me about what colorway this was, I just remembered that I forgot to reply. Now I am knitting some Batty socks from Knitter's Nightmare. Batty sock is her 80/20 superwash merino nylon, which is like the 2-ply, the real tight 2-ply. In her, this is a screwed up one because there were no non-screwed up ones when I went. They had already been purchased. But at this point, it is not at all screwed up, so I don't know what she's talking about. That's 80. In the Tulips and Vegetables colorway. Because look at that. That is an Emerald Spice blend right there. Is his name even Emerald? Did I just make that up? Oh my gosh. It's really hard to talk to a camera sometimes. Do you feel me? It is. So here's my sock so far. I feel like that's a pretty good color representation. The orange is even orangier though. Like it's even crazier. Actually, it's a terrible color representation. The teal is darker and the orange is essentially darker. Actually, the whole thing is essentially a little bit darker than it shows there. And more awesome. Just like Sadie, darker and more awesome. Yay! So Sadie is also, of course, of the Yarnivore podcast, and she will be teaching at this year's Super Summer Knit Together in Nashville, Tennessee, which I will be attending. Okay, can't wait to see you. So it's just my plain old, I'm just going to toe up Afterthought heel, but I'm going to do them shorty. And what else did you say? Double Zeros, Afterthought heel by Laura Lenneman. I think those are all the things I need to say. Enjoying it. Next work in progress. We're 29 minutes. I worked on the Viajange. I joined in the round. I worked on my Wispy. My Wispy is out of Quince and Company Turn. It is in the Drift. Ugh. It's in the Driftwood colorway. How do things work? I have this much. I have this much done. So I got the sleeve done, I got the back done, and I got half of another sleeve done. Oh, I just remember, I'm the worst, quite frankly. Somebody emailed me, I apologize, I don't remember off the top of my head who you are. Somebody emailed me and said that when she picked up for the ribbing, because you do these sleeves and then you pick up along the side and well around the whole opening area essentially, and you do some ribbing, she had issues with it gathering in the back. I have not heard anybody else make that complaint, but I also have not read all of the project notes because there are a gajillion of them. That said, I think the way you would combat that, which she's not going to want to hear because she's already... I'm so sorry I didn't even respond earlier. I am the worst. One thing that would alleviate that is it's a pickup of 2 to 3. So for every 3 rows, you're picking up 2 stitches. And you're picking them up with a smaller needle. I don't want to say that's wrong, but because it's not wrong, but it's going to give you way more pull in, which would create some perhaps bunching or gathering in the back. So if you have that problem with anything, like a sleeve that you're like, dude, that is like 1980s sleeve. Why is it so big and so tiny? You can do 2 things. You can either just not go down the needle size. So like, for example, I don't remember what sizes, but for example, I'm knitting mine on 6s, so I would technically do that ribbing on 4s. So I could either just do the pickup of 2 to 3, but keep on 6s, or I could do a pickup, go to the 4s and do a pickup of like maybe 3 to 4, or just do the 3 to 4 across the back where it's going to be more stretched. Or again, it may totally block out because you're putting it, I mean, that's a rounded, it's a rectangle that's basically becoming rounded. So, I mean, it's going to stretch out. I don't know. Those are my options. When I do it, I don't know. I usually don't pick up at 2 to 3. I find a 2 to 3 pickup for me, I don't know why. But like along the front of a cardigan to do pickup for ribbing, I never pick up a 2 to 3. 3 to 4 feels wild to me. Crazy. Because I don't want it to pull in that much there. Like I want it to look more flush. This, however, I may do a 2 to 3 pickup because mine is at a very loose gauge. And so I don't want it to be like falling off of me. And is there a B? That might be the only one. There may just be an A. Because mine, I did do mine with, I didn't see that there was a suggested ease because I failed on that one. But I did do mine relatively loose because that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be rather flowy and I knew again I was knitting it at a loose gauge. I didn't want it to look stretched out and crazy. I wanted it to look drapey. So my sleeves do have a good amount, not a ton though. Like when you actually get to the folds part of my sleeve, it's not like I've got a ton of ease. And I'm stretching, obviously. So, you see right there? See, pick up all of that. So I don't know for sure what I'll do. I hate to pick up and then have to do it. Now I can't get out of my clothes. I hate to do a pickup and then redo it, especially one that's that big for my size. But I don't know. Maybe I'll pick up 2 to 3 everywhere except right across the back where I'll do a 3 to 4. I just don't know, people. I just don't know. But those are my suggestions. Okay, so that's going well. Okay, 34 minutes. Questions. Now see, I wrote these down last week. And I don't remember what I wrote because I did write it, but Lord knows. Okay, I believe it's Gypsy the dog. I'm sorry, that's all right. I believe that's you. Asked if I will do a podcast. She said specifically with Malia, but in general with another human. I was actually talking about this with somebody. I think at the meetup, the TNA one. I am not opposed to doing a podcast with another human, or an alien for that matter. Whatever. Dog would be awkward. I'm not opposed to doing a co-hosting, like a special episode here or there. I don't know how I might come off as a total jerk. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have some self-diagnosed ADD, which means that one of my very, very bad habits is I interrupt like a mad woman. I'm the worst interrupter ever. Basically, you don't even want to be my friend. I will interrupt you all over the place. Because if I don't say it, then I'm going to forget it. Remember earlier when I was going to soapbox and then I couldn't remember what I was going to soapbox about? It's like that all the time. I know I'm not alone. I know there's lots of you out there who are just like that. Well, you probably are interrupters because you're better people. But your brains work like that. So I don't know. I might be like, I mean, I am kind of a jerk. I mean, who isn't? A little bit, tiny bit, sometimes. Maybe. But I might really come off as a total jerk. Or I will just not, like, usually in social situations, that's not true anymore. It depends on the social situation. But lots of times in social situations, I totally go into observer mode. It depends on the number of humans. But co-hosting a podcast would be not enough humans to go into observer mode. So that's not an issue. Never mind. But I'm not opposed to doing a co-hosting. I'm afraid to a little bit. I'm terrible. Also, I have a very raunchy sense of humor. Raunchy. And if I am around another person who will even give me the slightest leeway to be a 13-year-old boy, I will take it and run. Run hard. And so also that would be a problem. Not that I'm ashamed of my raunchy, so I'm slightly ashamed of my raunchy sense of humor. Let's not lie. But it would be very different for you than normal on this podcast. And, well, that's, again, why do I keep seeing A and B when really there's only one thing? So that's the issue. But thank you for your question. Okay, C. Trunick, asks, this is paraphrased because I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to fiddle with the iPad. I wish I knew fiber like you. I know fiber. I don't really. So I could envision a sweater just from looking at a skein. I can never figure out what to make from the yarn I have. How do you do that? This is a really good question. I feel like last week I had points. This week I don't. Okay, so if I have yarn before a sweater, that does not happen a lot for me. I typically buy yarn for a sweater. I usually do not have sweaters quantity in stash that I did not buy specifically for a pattern. However, I have before purchased sweater for a yarn and I was high, and then I came down. And I've had to repurpose said yarn. So how do I do that? Well, for one thing, I go onto Ravelry and I look for that weight yarn and one weight below. So for example, if it's worsted, I always look for worsted and DK. If I were skinnier, I would look for worsted and maybe Aran. You know what I mean? But for me, it's much easier sizing wise, speed wise, all that stuff. If I look for a pattern in my yarn and one size yarn down. Just because it's very, like, I can always make for example, if I had a worsted weight and I was looking for an Aran weight sweater, I might need to have a bigger size than is actually listed on that pattern because of scaling it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I will use the yarn's weight I have in one size smaller as filters. And I'll also use a yardage filter. A yardage filter isn't always the greatest because especially if you are a bigger person, a lot of times, it can't filter by yardage for your size. That would be crazy. So a lot of times, like, yes, I could probably make it if I were a size 34 bust. I would have enough yardage, but not for my size. So you filter for yarn, for the quantity of yarn you have, but kind of keep that in mind. You're not automatically be able to knit everything you see there. Okay, so that's two things. So that's all of the Ravelry usually I do. Unless, of course, I know that I really want lace or I really know that I want short sleeves. Okay, then you can filter away. Filter away. Then usually what I'm looking for is if I find a pattern that I'm interested in, I will go on it and look on the yarn ideas and see if the yarns that are used are similar to what I have. If you have a big yarn like a Cascade or, sometimes even a quince. There will be other projects in there and you can see how they did. Okay. The other thing you want to look for is structure. Not as huge of an issue on a shawl, can be, but like especially on a garment, like a garment knit with a single ply is not going to look the same as a garment knit with a multiple ply. Does that make sense? Or especially if it's a tightly plied multiple ply. So you might want to even go so far, if you don't see the yarn you plan to use in the yarn ideas, luckily there are pictures of the yarn on that screen and you can look for something that looks similar, even if you're not as familiar. Fiber content, of course, you want to look at. If the pattern is written for wool, then you can use wool. You could probably use any wool that is at least 80% wool, maybe 70% wool without any problem at all. But be careful of like alpaca. Alpaca is dangerous. Dangerous. If you don't know this about alpaca does not have memory, the same memory as wool does. So it stretches out like a fiend. It's very warm for one thing, which is good sometimes. It's very warm, but it also has very little elastic memory. So if you do want to substitute with an alpaca, make sure it is heavily blended with wool. I don't think I've even made a garment out of, I have not made a garment out of like the Barocco Ultra Alpaca, like that blend. I think it's like a 50-50. I don't even think I've made a garment out of that. Not that I couldn't successfully, I'm a little bit hesitant to do so. Okay. Other fiber contents that are commonly seen are silk. Your project is going to look different in terms of drape, big one, and shine. Sometimes because I know I am a sucker for any pattern that is pictured in gold, like a gold. I'm just going to automatically want to knit that. I am cheap. I know who I am. I got buttons. But so just try to dial yourself back and remember it's not going to be gold when you knit it. The same thing with shiny. Sometimes people are very attracted to shiny, or sometimes people are not attracted to shiny. But silk really is like shine and drape. Lots of times they are a drapier fiber. Okay, and then the other perhaps biggest one is gauge. Now, I don't mean, because you're like, well, you already searched on the right weight, worsted versus, worsted and DK. Well, yes, that is true. However, sometimes a pattern is written for worsted, but the gauge is like, I can't think, right? Worsted, gauge of 4 stitches to the inch. Well, that's bordering on an Aran weight yarn. So there's two different things that could be happening. Either the yarn they're using is actually fatter than a worsted weight and is technically an Aran, which that happens all the time, except it usually happens the other. It usually happens worsted to DK. But that happens all the time. Like sometimes because of like the halo of the yarn or whatever, it is not technically what you would consider that weight. So it could either be that it's just knitted a looser gauge and therefore is like has more drape and more hang. Or it really could just be that yarn is way fatter. So that's another thing to look at. Does that make any sense? I hope it did. But so those are all things I look at. I think gauge is one of the biggest ones though. Because it can really, like, again, you're just not thinking. You're like, oh, it's worsted, that's fine. And then you get into it and it's like, what? This is worsted at 6 stitches in the inch? What is that about? Or, wait, this is DK knit to 4 stitches in the inch? What is going on? And that indicates either that their yarn that they're using has a bigger halo or something is different maybe than what you're used to assuming is going to be a DK or a worsted. I hope that's helpful. I believe that there is a Craftsy class now. Laura Linneman is teaching a class at SSK, but if you're not lucky enough to go and get into her class, I believe that there is a Craftsy class about that. I could be lying, I'm sorry, but I think there is. Go check it out. The Knitting Pipeline is a Craftsy affiliate, so you can go through her site, or the Knit Girls are Craftsy affiliates. Go through their sites. So I'm sure other people are too, but those are the two I know. Okay. Now it's time for shameless self-promotion. Shameless self-promotion. You don't have to hang around. I don't blame you. Right? If I were Loop, I'd be like, bye, Loop! Right now. So I understand. This week's update. Up on Friday, which is a day, and it'll happen at 9 p.m. Eastern. There are, okay, these bags, I will warn you, these bags are a little bit less rigid than my usual bags. I don't want to, well, they're slightly less rigid than my normal bags. Here's one of them. It is a polished cotton. So you can see it has some sheen. That's not just a trick. So they're polished cotton, and for some unknown reason, actually I do know why, but it was stupid, they have a very white print on them. So I didn't want to use my normal undyed liner. So I bought something else, and now I'm like, that was crazy. But whatever. It's something different. These actually have a different liner. They have Ziggy Zag, a chevron liner. Now I will warn you, if you're uptight about color, which I am, it totally stressed me out to make these, I'm not going to lie to you. That dark stripe in there is not black, it's brown. So if you're uptight about color, I understand. However, it's a liner, and I feel like I would be okay with it. Made me a little stressed out to give it to you, but I feel like if I got this, I would be like, ooh, it's chevron-y, and I probably would not even blink. So I have this print in, this week's are all available in large wedge and sweater size. But because of the polished cotton and the chevron liner, it's not, it is a, it's kind of like a light, I mean, it's an interior, it's a, it's not a quilter's cotton, sorry. It's not a quilter's cotton. It is an interior decorator fabric, but it is not, does not have as much body. So, it does not necessarily, yeah, see, it doesn't stand up on itself. Lots of times my bags will stand up by themselves. But if you have something in it, it will totally stand up. This is just because of the zipper being heavy. But like if you have something in it to work with, it's not going to like flop around it. It's just, okay. Can you tell me it stressed me out a little bit? It totally did. Okay, so there's that size, and then there's the big sweater size. And if you're worrying about color, that is not, it is like a dove gray. It's got, it's like 3% lavender. It's a tiny lavender gray, but mostly gray. So there's those two. And then a coordinating fabric, or a different colorway of fabric. We have these guys, which I thought was fun and bright. And they get a yellow lining. Because it's summertime! And you need some yellow chevrons up in y'all. And of course that's available in the sweater and the wedge. And then last but not least, I don't have both of these sewn up. I only have the wedge sewn. But these will be available in a wedge and a sweater size. Now these guys I actually did interface because they needed it. Again, it is a, what do we call this? Do we call this poplin? I'm totally making stuff up. I believe it's a poplin. That's what we're considering this. Exterior. These are all 100% cotton, but this one does not have the shine. This one is a matte finish. And then it has chevrons. Same chevrons. So, there you go. See, this one does sit up by itself. There's nothing in it. You're just like, shush, we don't care. See, this one does not. Okay, but I just want you to know, I don't feel like I'm tricking anybody. I don't want to trick anybody. I want you to be happy, happy, happy. Okay, I believe that's all. Right. For a short episode, this went pretty long. All right. I hope you have a lovely week. I may see you at Kentucky Sheep and Wool, but if not, I'll see you again next week.